And good evening, everyone. Welcome to a all new episode of Holotheatre. As always, I am Dan Tartaglione, and you can see we have quite the guest list tonight. Uh, Not only do we have some world champs on, we have some NPC champs. We have, I think, nationals. I mean, at this point with Joe on, I mean, what hasn't Joe won? So, but tonight's going to be fun. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk mostly about the meta and Euros. Euros is today's what, Wednesday, so 3 days away. I don't know about you guys, but I think it's going to be a fun weekend of Star Wars, being that we got Euros going on this weekend. So, but tonight we're going to talk about, like I said, we're going to talk about Euros, the meta, and I invited 5 members of the community who are world-class players. They're almost all, I think all of them are on the Joe Olsen top 25 list. So, and you're like 26, 27.
You might have been on my top 25 list.
You were on my top 25 list. So at this point, like, I think this is a good representation of the community, and we're going to talk about Euros, how the meta is going to affect VSET 19, and some more Star Wars CCG stuff. So I think everybody knows who they are, so we don't really have to introduce them. We got Joe Olsen, Chris Kelly, Drew Lichtenstein, Jared Napolitano, and Brad Reinhold. Of course, the only person whose names I screw up is Brad. He's got
Brian Reinhold.
He's got the easiest name too.
I could be Brian, whatever. It doesn't matter.
It's the last name, the Brad Reinhold. The R from that just transferred over to Brian.
Yeah.
It's all good.
After you nailed my last name correctly too, you're almost gonna.
I know. I was almost in the clear. For the first time, I almost didn't screw up a name in the first 5 minutes of an episode. But, so yeah, let's talk a little bit about Euros, what you guys think of it. Like, we know that Euros is, like I said, this weekend, and the list of players who is going it's a pretty stacked meta. Or it's a pretty stacked field. Looking at, like, who's going to go, I mean, Fantasy Euros is currently up right now. And just looking at the list, I mean, what do you guys expect for this weekend?
Who's starting, Dan?
You spoke first, so you start, Jared.
All right, yeah. So, I guess in looking at the players and kind of trying to anticipate who the top 8 are, looking at the Fantasy Euros post that Paul McPherson is running as a good starting point. There's 8 players that are 40 points or higher. Shouldn't be any surprises on there. You have Kessling and B-Fred from America, and then obviously Bastion and Emil, both are 5 world championships between the two of them. And then we have Kieran and Crypto, and Timo's on there as well. And I think is that all 8?
Silverglen.
Silverglen, of course, yep. Who won the Naboo Regional. So all those players, I think none of them would be surprising if they go to the top 8. I think the one that has one question mark is just Timo, just because I don't think he's ever played an in-person event.
That's correct. That's his first.
Yeah, so, but then there's also a lot of other great players in the field as well. I was looking at the European Championship history. You know, Bastion and Emil have obviously won a bunch, but Casper won about 8 years ago. Crypto won one, and then Menzel won one about 12 years ago. So lots of players who've won. And I'm sure we'll talk about kind of the meta in addition to us talking about the players, but I'm really looking forward to following the action, and lots of great players.
And I know you didn't bring him up, but Angelo Consoli, who's under the 35 points right there, he's a former world champ. I mean, I wouldn't count him out.
No, definitely not.
Okay.
His biggest enemy is the clock. Angelo's a phenomenal player, but he's not a speedy one. So if he's in shape and practiced, I think he's very likely to make top 8. If he hasn't been playing much Star Wars and he's a little bit slower at it, I think time games might hurt him.
I think I heard say my name. Yeah, I mean, it should be a really great tournament. The one thing I think we're all excited about seeing at Euros is that, people there have a lot of off-meta decks, very
Mhm.
commonly, amongst Europeans, just, traditionally, and just also watching them play on GAMP. I'm particularly excited to see Bastion play in person for the first time in 3 years now, right? There hasn't been Euros in a couple of years, hasn't been a World. Obviously, he's had a big online presence, but really excited to see what he'll be playing. And so I think Euros is it'll be a good taste to see what the meta could set up to be for Worlds. But then also I think there could be, interesting decks that make top 8 there that would not be what you necessarily expect just due to the player pace that'll be there.
I'd say I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think the contestants are amazing. I'm really excited to see some great new decks. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, so you brought up the meta and everything, like, and how it's an off-meta deck. I mean, we have 2 Americans going. Drew, they're your teammates, Mike and Brian Fred. How do you think they're going to fare in this off-meta European meta?
I mean, I think the idea of an off-meta, so obviously, GIMP consolidates a lot of what people play, right? So it's not like there's going to be necessarily some just big surprise thing that comes out of nowhere. I think, it does sort of make one lean towards wanting to play more like solid type decks. Mike and Brian are definitely considering everything, and obviously I'm not going to sit here and say what I think they might be playing. But I made some joke to Mike that was like, look, you could roll out there with mains and you could just run into some guy from Slovakia playing Epic Duel or something, right? So just kind of, go in with solid decks, solid game plans, right? That's the thing is some decks fare better when the meta is wide open, and other decks make more sense when you think you're zeroing in facing a couple different types of decks. And those are also decks that I think we do know Euros like. Like Ralops is a very popular deck amongst a lot of Europeans. And Ralops is sort of your quintessential, just solid game plan for everything sort of deck.
Okay. And we talked a little bit about Bastion and how he's returning to play after a while. And we know Emil was just at what was it, the Naboo regionals.
Yeah, he played in the Tula regionals too. So he's played
in
two events recently. So obviously, I don't think he plays at all on Jump basically. So cool seeing him in the in-person events. I'm sure he'll do really, really, really well.
And how do you think those players who we've seen a lot of Jet players transition now to live play? How do you think they're going to fare?
I could jump in here because I know, I came back to the game in 2017. I played a lot on Jump, definitely a lot more than I do now as an advocate with other responsibilities. But I know when I qualified for the OCS back in February of 2020, that was kind of my breakout. And then I just obviously played a lot in person. I went to some in-person events. I went to a couple in-person majors. And then I did well in the 2020 Worlds online, and Chris Kelly knocked me out in the top 8. And then the NPC, I lost to Joe in the finals. And then part of me, I put a lot of pressure on myself because I was like, I don't want to be somebody who people say, oh, he's good online, but he can't play well in person. And just a lot of practice, preparation, and then Worlds 2021, I finished first on the Swiss event. So, but the point is that I feel like a lot of it does translate over from GEMP. You remember a lot of things. It makes you, you just in the terms of pass, the pass to your opponent for every action, and that kind of keeps you on top of things more than people might think. But of course, there's automatic modifiers that, definitely fall through the cracks or some kind of nuanced things. So I'm kind of rooting for Timo because I feel like he's a little bit in my position, what I was last year, and just to kind of hope that a lot of it does translate over to in-person play.
Okay.
Did you have, Jared, what was your first live event since you came back, since 2017, and did you have sort of a tournament where it was sort of a difficult transition, and then it kind of started clicking the combined things, or was it just immediate, nope, this all immediately, I'm good to go?
Yeah, so the very first event I went to was back down in Maryland, and Steve Skilton was running a sealed event, and this was June of 2017, and I remember he said hey, it's like riding a bike. You just remember how a lot of the mechanics of the game go. So that was kind of cool. And then I started going to locals in the region, New Jersey.
So you had some warm-up events before a live major.
My first major was MPC in January of 2018. and then I did Worlds in 2018 and NPC in 2019 in person. So definitely, more practice there. But I really didn't do really well at any of them until after kind of during the pandemic, after the pandemic.
Do you remember? This is a true story. I don't think I ever told you this. You showed up to a New Jersey local. That's the first time I met you, and first few times we played, honestly, I thought you were really bad. But but then, and this was when I was good. We played a game, and I think you were playing Endor Ops, and you like almost rolled me. You made like one mistake, and I remember thinking in my head, "That's going to be a really good player." And then a few months later, you might have made the NPC Constellation, maybe made the final, something like that. And I remember thinking that guy's going to be really good. So I do remember thinking that about you. Definitely like turned it around, and it was like riding a bike. You picked up on it and you rolled after that.
It's interesting because with the European players, I feel like they all, obviously we all like playing in person more, but I think like the gap between how much the Europeans prefer playing in person more, and there's a lot that play like exclusively in person or very, very sparingly on Gemp. So I think a lot of these names looking at the list are, players that have been playing, for a long time. And yeah, I think like Timo's kind of in a unique spot. I think Fernando's going to be really interesting to watch. Just with his 2020.
Or Miguel plays a fair amount online. Yeah, I agree. And I think that what's particularly then interesting about that is that we've had this COVID gap, and that Euros hasn't been run since 2019, right? And Tomas put on the what he called Corona Cup in the summer of 2020, where it was like a team event with different formats. They made this limited format, and they did some, so they've done some sort of fun stuff. But a lot of the players, since they do play less on Gemp, will not have played a lot in the last few years. So that may become a factor for some of them. Whereas someone like Bastion, I mean, in the last few years, he's, won the OCS and and then obviously there's the whole European team won the Outrider Cup this year. And so there will be some of them who have been playing more and some less. And I think that could definitely be a factor.
Okay, so looking at, like, we just had a recent meta change with the VSET 19. So, and being that we have two of the members of Design on, how do you think the VSET 19 is going to impact this meta, especially for Euros? Let's start with Drew.
Sure. I mean, obviously the elephant in the room is 0 hour. Everyone's been talking about it, especially the last couple of days. And I'm sure in everyone's teams, they really, are getting together and perfecting and honing lists, both 0 hour lists themselves and also dark side decks I think will be good against it. And so at the very least, I think that's, something in the meta that's different, right? I think the deck is almost akin to like a combo deck in Magic to some degree. Right, and that goes off really fast. If it isn't disrupted, it really kind of does its thing, right? And so the question becomes, on the light, if you want to play 0 hour, can you hone it and tune it so it goes off even through disruption? And obviously on dark side, we'd be able to disrupt it. But it's also one deck, right? And so it becomes a question of like, what are the versatile answers for it if you're worried about it? How prevalent is it going to be? Is it actually as good as it seems, or is it sort of a boogeyman that kind of, expression in Magic, like for people who played certain combo decks, like Goblin Charbelcher is like a glass cannon, right? It can go off, but even a little bit of disruption stops it. And will that be 0 hour or not? We don't know. Otherwise, shifts in the meta. I mean, I think the top decks remain the top decks. I think one interesting possible shift isn't necessarily from set 19, but it's just looking at the last couple majors. I mean, we had the same top 4 in back-to-back majors, too, from were on this call and probably know the meta better than I do. But, we've also had prominent players who have not played in majors recently, right? I mean, between, Justin and Matt teaming together, Justin played NPC and didn't even, play in top 8, and neither of them played the next couple of tournaments. Obviously, Bastion's not played in a major. Right. So there are big name players whose deck choices influence the meta who have not played in majors recently, and it would be interesting to see if they show up at Worlds with the same top dark decks that have been doing really well the last couple majors, like ROPS and Shadow Collective, or if they have like other things they bring in. And yeah, I think I said a lot without saying anything specific there, I guess, particular.
Yeah, I think I have a little bit different view. Just and Jared kind of touched on it now with other responsibilities. I play competitively a lot less. For me, there's kind of two elephants in the room, and I'm not necessarily as worried about the meta shifts so long as it's fun. And yeah, obviously, we're looking at things to make sure everyone has as good a time as possible. And I do know my view is probably colored a little bit by all the messages I get about A, B, or C. And I can just say, like, right now, and Drew can attest to this too without saying what it is. Like last night, everyone on D&D had homework. We're all we're all play testing stuff, not for Worlds, but just for the meta's sake. So
play the Suns deck.
Literally, everyone had homework. We're all like, play test this, and see where it shakes out.
Spoiler alert, we're really worried about the Finn Rao Agents in the Court deck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we know that Bastion loves Agents in the Court.
That's what we're going after. We're making sure that
Agents
Court doesn't rise to the top.
So
we're just seeing what's available to the players and trying to do that. So at this point in my life, I think my competitive side might be a little down just because we're trying to make sure the meta is within the 40-yard lines of where we want it to be. We know we're not going to hit it exactly, but we want to make sure where it is. So,
as an outsider of the process, D&D is killing it on the fun metrics.
That's really good to hear. Thank you. Honestly, that's more important to me than if a deck is at 75% or 74%. I'd rather everyone go and have a great time.
Kind of like with 0 Hour kind of unbinder foddered a few cards like Zeb and This Is My Ship and Chopper. Like you would never see those cards in any decks, and now they're playable. Like Zeb, I could just hear Joe saying this card's binder fodder. But now, like with Insurrection, I mean, and with Phoenix Squadron operations, his stats are like ridiculous, and he's protected from trample until Enforcer comes down. But I know like Ghost was one of the foils for the first season of the OCS back in 2018, and so was Sabine. So me, and I know Chris is probably with me here with the shinies getting some more play, the cards that you haven't really seen play as much in the last 3-4 years. So that's pretty neat. Just kind of see these cards unearthed and now
I actually think Joe's saying she is binder fodder when talking about Zeb.
It was Ezra, but now there's a different picture. It's more solidified in my head. And for whatever reason, the first one. I
always thought Agent Callus was a female too, for what it's worth.
Herkshep is the other one. I can never get right. 0 Hour, I think, is very strong, but I haven't heard too many complaints about it being unfun. Like some people might say it's not fun to play against because it's so strong, but setting aside the strength factor in terms of a lot of it's not as oppressive as some, I feel like, very strong decks have been in the past. So I don't know. It's definitely at an interesting spot where everyone's figuring it out, and I'll be interested to see this weekend where it lands in the Euros, how it fares and what builds come out of it, and I'll be interested to spend the next month sort of cranking away at what's the best build. Should we play it? Should what's the best thing to beat it? How much do you have to that's part of the fun for me of the metagame is figuring out this deck. Let's say 0 Hour comes out of Euros as decidedly the best deck, and over the course of the OCS, we still have 3 weeks left in the OCS and hundreds of OCS games to be played, and let's say it does come out as the best deck. Part of it's the fun of figuring out, like, what do you do about that? Hunt Down Hitco clearly were the best decks after day one of the online Worlds, and then we had a week gap, and it was like, and you could change decks, and that was sort of a cool, unique format that Worlds doesn't usually have. And then it was like, what do you do about Hunt Down Hitco? And I remember saying, I'm going to play Watch Your Step and Watto for day 2 because, like, I'm putting 2 of the Gamorrean guard that's like lose 1 to cancel a drain. My mind's blanking on his name.
Gonically more.
Gleamort, yeah. I put in 2 of that so I could just stack at Watto's site, and when Hitco went to the other one, I just lose 1 to cancel that drain, and I'm sitting with Occupation and doing more. And I was like, Watch Your Step, I'm doubling up on it's a hit, and I'm doubling up, and I'm building a Watch Your Step that beats Hunt Down V. And game 1, I played Chris Kelly, and he's got Hunt Down V, and I'm like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And I'm, we had a week to basically be like, what do we do? These are the top decks. Well, right now we've got a month. I don't know that 0 Hour is to the same level per se, but even if 0 Hour comes out as like ultra strong, we've got a month. I'm excited. That to me is fun too. So but I'm looking forward to seeing this weekend.
Okay, we haven't heard much from Brad. What do you think about like 0 Hour and this shift now with VSET 19?
Brad.
Well, I personally tried a lot of different things out. I tried vehicles, I tried squadron assignments, I tried insurrection. I think for me, what works the best personally is playing it like a light side Rufts. As long as you go into the mentality that it's light side Rufts where you can only add or subtract in one fight, like you're perfectly fine playing that deck.
Okay. Do you think that we're going to see a lot of 0 Hour in the European meta? Do you think it's going to be?
I mean, anytime you've got a new set comes out, you've got clearly the best deck and what people think are tertiary decks. And for a long time, people felt that way about OA. But OA didn't make a really strong appearance at any individual contest until Nationals this past year, I don't think. So just because something is deemed the best or is thought to be the best doesn't necessarily make it the best.
Okay.
We'll just have to see when we play it.
I'm surprised, Brad, you're not advocating for an immediate nerf, because 0 Hour subtracting from Weapon Destiny just killed Set Your Course. It just, I mean,
I already asked that question before you got on the air. I already asked that. Right now, it's not a problem. So I was told to add a gunner. Was the solution that I was told.
I'll say that it's interesting what I think Brad and Joe both said, because it is 2 different types of potential metas. Again, 0 Hour is this sort of nebulous potential thing. Is it a top deck or not? I think, Brad, what you're saying about OA, I mean, you're right. Nothing changed about OA from Indoor Grand Prix, where 7 of the top 8 remains, to Nationals, where like 6 of the top 8, and half of which was, OA. And I think that kind of says that we haven't had a best deck for either side for a while. We've had like 3 or 4 top decks that are like within 5.
Well, we do have a best deck, but then the meta shifts to react to it, and that's what a meta is, right? And so we might have a best deck for a little while, and then another best deck even without a set coming out, because metas adjust and evolve, and that's good and fun.
Yeah. And I think it's way too early without an actual contest to have happened for us to say we need to nerf something or change something. Let's see what happens at Euros before we make changes. I mean, these cards went through play testing. So
there will be no changes before Euros. I will announce that.
Come on, do something, D&D. Get off your butts.
So, Drew, like
3 days, burn the midnight oil.
Drew, you're 9-3 this month in the OCS. What have you had success with? Was it 0 Hour or was it something else?
I played a few different things. Did
you finish your games already?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, but you're already qualified, so he's dabbling.
Yeah.
He's doing his homework assignment with OCS games.
I also kind of just need like a mental break from the game for a few weeks before really getting to World. So I was like, I want to knock out OCS and not really think about things too much.
Sure.
But,
Okay.
9-3. What did I play? I could just tell you.
Bring home.
I know I played Legend a couple times because I really like Legend. It's my favorite deck, so I'm always going to try to get some games with it. I played Bring 'Em Before Me. I did play 0 Hour. Yeah, I played 0 Hour a couple times. I played Thrawn 3 times. Went 2-1 with it, including.
Was that your 3 losses? You went 2-1 with it.
2-1, including beating one William Taco Bill Kafer on 0 Hour. Shout out to Taco Bill if he's listening. I just want to throw out a plug for Thrawn. Obviously, I think didn't land quite where we wanted to. It's not quite as good. But if you really expected a meta full of 0 Hour, there's worse things to do than convert their system and then also have 2 more sites in play to let you play basically like the game against entanglements to flip them.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's true.
It does have some play against that deck, but yeah, played Brigham a couple times. Bringham's boring, but I just wanted to get some reps in with it.
So you mentioned
all
Thrawn.
of D&D hates Brigham. You fit right in.
What'd you say?
I was gonna say you
all
mentioned
of D&D hates Brigham.
Oh, I don't hate it. I'm not like Ryan wanted to like die in a fire and would say so. Honestly, he's right here. He hates the mechanics.
I hate it
like
too.
Brigham. Brigham just doesn't have as much interesting flex play as decks that I like to play.
okay.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
like Brigham. I like it.
Add
I
more,
like
add
it.
more BD9s.
Decipher kind of screwed it
I
up
was
with
playing
requiring
0
a
BD9.
specific character in the opposite deck, but the theme of it's great and it's fun. It's a battling deck. It's good. I like it.
So I mean, like you said, you
In fact,
Thrawn.
Brigham might have a good. Yeah, good.
You went 2-1 with Thrawn. Like, what kind of like things are you wanting to do with Thrawn going forward to make it a competitive deck?
I don't know. We got to figure some stuff out with it. Like the problem is that like the strength of the deck is obviously the Chimera Thrawn turn 1 combination, right? So like in some ways I was comparing it early on to be like, oh, this is like space, Rise of the Sith, where you get like this really powerful drain going turn 1. And I was like, well, ooh, it could even be better because like Rise of the Sith has to play like a bad invisible hand package for its space. It's much easier to piece together some ground later with like a Vader or walkers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is like the activation is such hard garbage. Like you gotta either play more systems, which is like not ideal because the strength of the deck would be if you could like park Chimera in front of their system and like against
Mm-hmm.
old allies at Jakku or like against 0 Hour, I beat Bill because I didn't play a second system and we're just like, all right, here's 40 power Star Destroyers, we're gonna keep pounding it. We unconverted you, you can't limit destinies from Tarkin and Thrawn, which is great. The problem is you either pull these really bad sites. Like the sites are so bad. I don't know why I made the sites so bad, to be honest. We were talking about that today, Matt. Like the sites are so bad, and so like if the sites were like easier to defend, or if it had another 2, I don't know. So that's like the only thing that's kind of lacking in it. But I think there's actually some interesting raw power there that mainly just goes with the fact that like Chimera Thrawn guaranteed turn 1 is like really powerful. We'll see.
Bill is saying the only reason you beat him was because he's bad at Star Wars cards.
I like Bill. I agree with that statement. No, I'm just kidding, Bill. Bill,
I
you're
do
great.
not agree with that statement.
I don't agree with that
multiple top 8 competitor in the last couple of years.
statement.
Yeah, yes. Bill is fantastic. In case you haven't played against him.
But so what kind of differences? Like I think we talked about it. The differences between like the European meta and the American meta. Is there any like big deck that you want to we are expecting the Europeans to pull out for this, or besides like 0 Hour?
I bet we're going to see more QMC than is typical. I feel like Europeans always like QMC. Trying to think of other.
Angelo likes QMC or Diplo. Emil's old allies list is very passive. With 3PO, non-combo, we're doomed. It could be worse. Multiple control tunnels. Like it's just like he never wants to have a battle the entire game, and so I think he'll stick with something like that, or maybe make a version of that on 0 Hour. So some different versions then are. Whereas if you look at the old allies that was played at nationals between the new allies members and myself, they were very similar builds.
Do you expect to see a lot of like
Diplo? Diplo's a deck I feel like a couple of Euros have played. I think Bastion played it at Worlds a couple years ago, and I know Timo likes Diplo.
Do you expect to see a lot of mains and toys, a lot of decks that lightsabers and blasters or anything like that?
I'll be honest with you. I expect a lot of agents in the court. I feel like that's a very from just knowing people over there, I think that's a very much their speed kind of deck, especially with Finn Rao being as good as he is. I know Bastion loves the deck, so.
You can see mains. Silvergillen plays mains. Kieran plays mains.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Mike and Brian could play anything. And
Mm.
that's not giving away any team tech. They could literally play anything. They both have played mains in the past, right? So it's not like mains are not possible. I think it's overrated, the idea that Euros don't like mains.
Yeah, I agree. It's overstated.
Well,
especially with
Bastion
the last few years. I think the Euro meta 10 years ago was quite a bit different than ours, but GIMP has consolidated it somewhat. They still have people who like doing their own thing, but so do we. When you go to a tournament, you'll have people who like doing their own thing, but like a lot of the top stuff has become more similar.
Do you think if there's one thing I know, it's that somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean there's a line, and everyone on one side of it hates Throne Room, and everyone on the other side of it is okay with it. So I don't. Maybe the Euros like mains, but without a doubt, the most aggressive and common feedback would be from that side about hating Throne Room. So maybe the main style is different, but
well, that's why we got some new allies invading the Euros this year.
yeah, it's possible, but I wouldn't count on many Euros playing typical standard mains.
Okay. Well, I mean, why haven't we seen a throne room in the last couple years?
They rented Walkling. They rented Walkling, so you can't.
Is that the only reason?
I only suggest we unerrata it every couple of weeks or so.
I am all for that. I'm for that. I'm for bringing back San 2.0. I'm all for those things. But obviously, more goes into the decision making, meta concerns. We can't have complete power creep. A lot goes into it. Everyone has their opinions, and they're well justified. So ultimately, we come to good consensus. But there's definitely voices in the room for those types of decks.
This makes me kind of laugh because I know there was a lot of stunning moves played at the Naboo regionals. I think there was like 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
And Throne Room just demolished. It would demolish ASM because they could just always just go right to that Republica site and they'll never give it up. And it was like probably one of the worst auto losses I can remember. But I mean, I guess outside of Thrawn and 0 Hour for V19, what do we think is going to make a mark? It looks like the Magistrate and pretty much all the ROPs that I've seen because it's a pretty strong character. And then there's those ASM helpers, which are interesting. The Vader's lightsaber's pretty good. The starting interrupt I'm a little lukewarm on, but what does everyone else think about other V19 stuff?
I'm not sold on ASM. I think until there's a really high Destiny version of it, playing that many characters with matching weapons can't be good. I think I did like the Vader's lightsaber, though. I think they desperately needed something like that to balance it out, so you don't have to start I Am Your Father.
Yeah, so, I mean, we talked about...
Cara Dune and R2 are some cards that haven't really been brought up, but can have a lot of impact on games where they see play.
Yeah,
I like R2 in Anakin Saga.
Just in general, he's a deck shuffler. And a free grabber, but he's a Destiny 6 shuffler. So I think he and Kara are underrated cards.
Have you seen the Tom deck that uses him and BB-8 with the Force Servitude for light side, and then stacks it on what's it called? The effect from Premiere that lets you stack devices.
Memorial.
Yeah, Crest Memorial. Have you seen that one?
No.
But now I need
the droids in there too.
Oh yeah. I played against Tom with that deck. It's not fun to play against.
Guys, have you read?
Not fun to play against.
It's
not fun.
From
It's not
Legacy. I had never read that card before I played it in Frodo's Cube a couple weeks ago.
Don't forget the droids was amazing back in the day.
Draw any battle destinies or fire any weapons. None.
It was
Zero.
amazing. We used to play it in combat, in Profit. Yeah.
Wild card. I like the new Vader. I played him Bring Him Before Me. Felt pretty sweet.
That's
I like the new Vader too.
I seen a couple Hunt Down V lists I think I saw playing earlier today. But I mean, Vader's Anger is like a really good card, and so like I feel like getting a justification to push it from being a 61st card to a 60th card is pretty nice.
So,
really good against like 0 Hour, right? Like they try to run away, you follow. against Cannon. That's right. All their dudes.
Grand Emerald Thrawn V is also good against 0 hour following to the bad side. So.
And I was joking about Finrao Agents in the Court, but I made a list that seems very, very annoying to play against.
I'm sure Bastion will play something similar.
Blasters?
So,
one other thing, Brad brought up Tom, and that's something we didn't mention in terms of the meta yet, but I think will be relevant. Like Drew mentioned, Desai's been testing a lot with MHT, but he's also been testing a lot with Tom, and I think that
scary.
decks that draw 9s for Destiny are on people's radar for whether that's, I mean, I don't know how many different versions of that you guys have seen now, but it's like there's a Coruscant CRV version, there's a Bring 'Em Before Me version, there's a Roth version, there's like a million different
Thrawn version too.
Oh yeah. So but I, you know, and Tom obviously plays a million games against everyone all the time, and so I think that I wouldn't be surprised to see some decks this weekend that are drawing Aura's Blasters for Destiny, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it at Worlds either. So that's another potential wrinkle in the meta that is sort of a little you know, and has its own sub game in terms of R2 was mentioned as a shuffler, but things like that add extra utility to your deck for those niche scenarios too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just want to say I did mention earlier. I said I had 2 elephants in the room. That's the other one.
We nice. How much detail you want to go to, Chris? You want me to do it, or you want to do it?
I don't know what you're talking about, so maybe mess with me.
Okay.
We can figure it out.
The deck has been discussed quite a bit.
9s is on D&D's radar.
Yeah, we kind of realized
the sides drop.
Didn't quite do enough, and we had some discussion whether we needed to do something before Worlds or not. But
I really hope
before Euro.
Nothing will happen for Europe. That's for sure.
Okay, I was going to say I really hope Tom is not watching this, because you just I know you guys nerfed down drop and thrown back a little bit, but what else can you do to the guy?
I'll say this. We keep saying
you're getting 9 strong against you is not fun.
Taken personally, it's just the mechanic of it, and if anything, it's the Matt Carulli thing, because his is the card that we nerfed. So it's not meant at all to be, we don't want this guy winning. It's just playing against that deck isn't always the most fun experience. And for a game and a hobby where people are paying money to fly to places to have fun and enjoy themselves, we want to make sure we can maximize
I think it's a compliment when you win with something so much they have to change it.
Yeah. I mean, look at Map. Lenny broke Map first, and everybody remembers that.
Yeah, but the thing is, maybe I'm overreacting. It wasn't called the Lenny deck, so I don't want anyone thinking this is, you know, an attack on a player who we all like and enjoy having in the community. It's just that mechanic is a little needs to be looked at.
That's fair. Nah, I mean, the fact that you guys are keeping like an eye on the meta is great, and it just shows that you're putting in due diligence in a game that you guys love.
Yep.
So, at this point, give us a top 8. We'll start with Joe.
I will, instead of all of us giving a top 8, I'll give one player, and each person can add one player.
Okay.
I'll go Bastion.
I like that. That's different. I mean, the only thing is there's 5 of you.
World or Euro?
Yeah, we'll loop around.
Yeah, for Euros.
Euros, Bastion. I'm gonna take the bold call and say I think he'll make the top 8.
Okay. Chris,
who do you pick?
After that brave pick, I don't know how to follow. I hate doing this because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings by not picking them. I'll just say Emil. Emil is obviously one of the best players of all time, and he's one of my best friends in this game. So I've been through war with that guy on the other side of things. So I'll pick Emil with no disrespect to anyone else. There's a lot of great players, but
okay,
that's what I go for.
The surprise of no one, I'll pick Mike. Definitely. Not the other person named Mike who I don't know who I picked for the 10-point star on my fantasy team.
You guys are brave.
I'll be honest. I'm really torn. Like, I love Brian Fred, and I would normally pick him, but I think I have to go with Timo Dusel, who's on my team now.
Okay, that's 4 right there. So we got 3 left. Jared?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Kessling. He's just been on fire.
Drew, what was...
Kessling's already picked.
Yep,
I
Kessling's
thought you said
picked.
Fred.
He said Mike.
Oh, my bad.
Drew
I
said
heard
Mike, yeah.
Fred's name as I was looking at the list.
To be fair, though, we do have Dutch Mike and we have American Mike.
Which I clarified.
The Dutch Mike.
I'm taking Dutch Mike on the wheel to run up my hand.
Yeah. I'll go with Kieran. Kieran always does really well.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay, Joe.
Take the obvious one. Yep.
Zimwit would be my number 2 pick after Bastion, so I can't believe
Really?
he's still available to draft here.
I like how you're in draft mode already, like for this.
I mean, Taco Bell's trying to get NFL draft picks in the chat.
He is.
Don't draft best running backs. That's what I learned. So who's the 8th
All right,
one?
we'll skip Chris Kelly because he's clearly uncomfortable with this game.
Yeah,
And now
we'll
you
skip
actually have to
Chris.
make
Well, I
a
feel
pick.
obligated to pick Dutch Mike.
And
Poor Dutch Mike. I'm picking Mike, but not him. So I'm going with Dutch Mike. He's my man, bro.
Chris Kelly, I love your heart. You're just so compassionate. You're just like you're feeling for Dutch Mike here, which I'm
That's
sure
why
would
I'm
not be
saying
offended.
so much love on Holotheatre.
Yeah.
Is it on me to pick the
What do we have? 6 now?
So we got Bastion, Emil, Timo, Kieran, Kessling, and Zimwat. There's
which are 7 or 6 of the 8 top
Yeah.
8 by fantasy points. So no surprises.
yeah, no surprises.
I'll take Miguel.
Don't make me work. I'm gonna pick Brian Fred.
Okay.
Fred.
Okay, and Drew, you said
and
Miguel.
Fred rounded out. Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
so I like that. That's a solid top 8, and I think like.
And I just know for a fact Silverglen is going to watch this, and he was the single person in the top 8 by points that wasn't picked.
Yeah,
so he will use that as fuel, and I hope he does well.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think Dutch
none
Mike's
of
got all
us
the fuel in the world right now. But
probably would pick him. Phenomenal player, but there's a lot of good players. So it's
there's too many.
When are we
the problem with
streaming?
top 8 is like there's only 8 slots, and there's more than 8 really good players.
Yeah,
Out of curiosity, when are we streaming coverage of Euros? When can we watch games?
Dan?
Jared.
I can comment on this. So
Yeah.
we've had a lot of people on the streaming Twitch who've like offered in some form or fashion to help with streaming Euros. I think everyone's pretty aware that it's not as straightforward as it is for the U.S. majors. But my understanding is in the past, somebody's brought a laptop, somebody's brought a camera. At the very least, I'm hoping that that happens again, and at the very least, we record the games and we can review them after the fact.
Yeah.
I thought the World's coverage in 2019, there were some hiccups, but I thought by and large it was better than most people were fearing or anticipating. So it'll be a matter of just kind of the folks on site, because I don't have all the technical aspects to it, but it seems like there's some people genuinely interested in, and a lot of people do have the know-how and to do the remote desktop or remote commentary. So we'll kind of see how it forms, but it seems like people get on site, set up some equipment. Hopefully it happens live, but we don't want to take away from the actual event, and there's only so many volunteers on site to kind of coordinate it and keep it moving. We don't want to delay. I'm sure they don't want to delay the event. It's going to be Chris Menzel and Kevin Yop are going to be running the show, since unfortunately Tomas is not going to be able to go. He had to cancel today, actually. So, but yeah, I'm hoping we have at least some streamed some recorded games to go over after the fact, at minimum.
Yeah, and I know the stream team is going to work. If we can get those games, we're going to have the stream team work behind the scenes, getting those games out as quickly as we can. I know there's life happens and everything, so but don't worry. If we can get those games, we'll get them out as quickly as possible. So, on that note, let's just so again, as a reminder, Worlds is next month. We're about a month and a week out from Worlds, so if you are thinking about going to Worlds, again, it is October 13th through the 16th in Atlanta, Georgia. Drew worked behind the scenes to get everything set up. And I know Drew said today that we have 1 week left on the hotel booking link.
Yeah, it's the link in the forums. It's a week from tomorrow, so you got a week for the discounted rate. So if you go to the forum for Worlds, you can look using that.
Jared.
Yeah, a couple items on prizes for World. So most of them are posted, pretty much all of them actually, but just a couple more detail on them. So a lot of people provided positive feedback on those quote mugs that we did a lot last year for each event. So we actually just ordered them yesterday. I got a lot of really good suggestions from the marketing team. Some of them were very Star Wars CCG specific, and some of them were very Star Wars specific. So we're going to have 4 different varieties. We'll keep them a little bit of a secret, but I think they're all really good. They're ordered. They should be going in time. Mike Kessling is going to be receiving 16 of those mugs in the mail. I should probably let him know. Hopefully he'll be home. If not, Drew, can you swing by his house and make sure that no one steals them?
Yeah, I can manage that.
But then there's going to be 16 more that we'll use for other events in 2023. So those are neat, very functional. And then also, I have a shout out. We touched upon creative decks and kind of people doing some interesting stuff. So basically, Derek Jackson, who some of you guys know, he's a Canadian player. I think he went to Endor Regionals, if I'm not mistaken. Joe, he reached out a while ago, and he's a jeweler, so he had an idea for a really neat prize that he wanted to donate. And this is if you guys watch The Mandalorian, this is called an ingot.
Oh, like Beskar's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100 grams of sterling silver. It's a pretty neat prize. And his one advice of guidance was he wanted to give it to somebody who had a very creative idea. So, but of course, someone who has a creative idea and someone who does pretty well. So we'll decide, I guess, amongst the tournament committee, maybe the advocates and/or the advocates, who made a pretty neat, innovative deck idea. One example might be like at Nationals. I think it was either Brad and/or Justin Miyashiro kind of came up with that idea and Joe played against it and had some good commentary against it, or while playing against it, of that BB9 deck and the 4 servitude.
Yeah, we've been working on that. Yep.
So something along those lines that's kind of different, and just something that people are like, oh, that's really neat. So that was one thing that we'll be keeping an eye on for Worlds, and we'll award this to whoever person who kind of makes the biggest imprint that way. So those are my 2 little surprise
So it's
announcements.
specific for most creative at Worlds.
Yeah,
Yes.
Or some creative and finishing well or whatever.
yeah. Like if you have a really creative deck, but you go 0-4, unfortunately,
Right.
you kind of want
But
to
it's
strike the
specific
balance
to that
out.
tournament. You need must enter to win type thing.
Yeah. So we're looking for something innovative
Okay.
that we can recognize and say, great job.
So not the 0 hour I copied from Justin Desai.
Well, I mean, if it's innovative, I mean, you can help Justin Desai win the prize.
Listen, adding a 4th rescue in the clouds is very creative.
I mean,
That's a contentious topic, I will tell you.
agents in the court with Mandos and blasters, that would be, if someone pulls that off, that might be my vote. Oh, another good idea, or another example might be like B-Fred played Verge at Endor.
Yeah.
And did really, really well. I think he went 3-1 with the deck, and like barely anyone else was. I know Derek actually is a big fan of Verge. So something along those lines of like playing, if you're like the one of a certain deck type and you do, 3-1.
Bastion's Clouds at Worlds Day 3 a few years ago or something. That sort of.
It's really spicy.
I mean, the only problem was he ran
what
right
else
into the deck you
played
didn't want to
well?
see.
That's true. That's true. I showed that deck to my playtest partner, and he was just going gaga for it. So,
I mean,
Creative stuff is fun. I'm glad that's getting a very special award.
I know
Thanks, Eric.
Scott played an interesting deck on the OCS today. Hitco Jedi Testing.
he loves that deck, though.
Yeah.
That's the deck he's been playing for a while.
Okay. And again, this year we're going to be doing Road to Worlds. That is a donation-inspired event on the way to Worlds that starts very soon, I believe. I know it's after Euros.
21st. I think the 21st.
Yeah, it starts the 21st, and final sign up cutoffs is the 23rd.
And that gives a good opportunity for a plug. The Kessling run with Jeremy talking about gem slicing, because I know one of the objectives of that event is to do some type of thank you to the Gem Slicers for all that they do and keep this thing going for free and for all different types of players, casual, competitive, old school, new school. So we definitely want to direct a thank you towards them. But it's some interesting stuff to hear about what Jeremy talked about on the slicing.
Very cool.
And then
the prizes looked really good for that. I think isn't there like an uncut sheet or
yeah, there's great prizes for that event. So if you like prizes, Jared and the marketing team have hooked it up.
And in that event, we currently have
16. I updated that a few days ago. I think we probably have another 10 that we need to update for. So, keep signing up. I think it's the Gem message of the day if people need to find the exact spot to sign up. But yeah, just sign up. It'll be fun. Get your games in, get your practice in. Yeah.
And so far, we've raised $210 towards the event. So again, I think the suggested donation is you can donate at least $5. Suggested donation's $10, but if you want to donate more, go ahead.
I thought about doing a couple of years ago when Taco Bill organized the Road to Worlds, he made the entry fee $5.25 for the 25th World Championship. So I thought about making it $5.27, but then I figured people would just ask constantly, why is it $5.27? What's the 27 cents? Pay for the PayPal fee? What's going on here? So we passed on that and kept it simple. Sure.
And then I know that Euros is the big event this weekend, but Yavin 4 is doing their super weekend this weekend with the Yavin 4 regionals on Saturday and Virginia State's on Sunday. So if you're in the area, go ahead and play. David is doing a really bang-up job with putting this together. I know Bill's going to be there. I'm 99.9% going to be there.
Nice.
Yeah, traveling the 7 hours to go play Star Wars cards.
You're going to pass Kendall miles traveled in a car to go to Star Wars CCG events in 2022.
No. No. I think Kendall's definitely done more. But we'll see.
I mean, I think Joe, Hayes, and Kyle definitely will. I guess that was travel not to play in the Star Wars event.
I mean, they did get a nice record album cover out of it, though. And looking at the September OCS right now, again, Drew is finished and sitting at the top at 9-3. Greg Shaw is sitting at 9-1. Looking on down the lines, Matt Harrison Trainer is 5-0. Joe is 4-0. So I know the month's early. The biggest surprise is Timo is not finished yet.
Timo's been on vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also probably got Euros on his mind.
Yeah,
true.
He told me as soon as he's done with Euros, he's going to grind all of them out probably in like a week. So
I give him 2 days.
2 days,
yeah, probably.
Well, if you want to dodge Timo, play them all in the next couple days.
Yeah.
Just play them this weekend.
Yep.
Take all your
that would be my advice. That would be my advice to anybody listening.
And then again, so far with the those who've qualified, Justin Sy, Bill Kafer, Bastian Wickelhaus, Zemowit, Drew Lichtenstein, Brad Kipple, Gavin Ortland, Eric S. Spixma, I think, Connor Britton, Steve Roney, and Matt Harrison Trainer have all qualified for the top 16.
So, Joe, how many bids are going to be determined this month? 4 or 5?
5.
Yeah,
5. So there's going to be 2 for the September, top 2 finishers in September, an at-large for the second half of the season, and then 2 at-larges for the overall season. So there's 5 up for grabs. Some are a little more out of reach than others, but there's a lot of stuff in play, and a lot of stuff can go any direction if someone has a really good month or a really bad month. Let's see.
And one last plug. The 2022 Hollies are out there, and the voting is live. So make sure you guys go and vote on those. For the categories are Most Versatile Player, Best Co-Host, Best Commentator, Biggest Fan, the Quipper of the Year, the Kendall Out of Nowhere Award, Best On-Air Moment or Episode, and then Meme of the Year. How can you not vote for Brian Fred Thanos?
Just like perfect on like 5 different levels. That means
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point in the show, like we usually wrap up and everything, but I think the last thing we got is I got a lore challenge for all 5 of you.
do a token. Do we do a token?
We're gonna do a token right after the lore challenge.
Okay, cool.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say the token should be the Death Star conference room.
Yeah.
Good. Make it so.
Make it so.
Star.
You're
I think that's
speaking
the
of
right
which,
Star Wars code for this.
That'll be my solution to Sigfa. I'll just do that and move Krennic over there, and then I'll get +2. It'll be
there
fun.
you go.
Yep.
But so speaking of the tokens, I just sent Jared the second batch of responses to this. We had over 530 entrants, I think, entries, or was it 550? I think it was like 550. One of the two. But
There's 550 people who
Submission.
play this game.
yeah, entries into the tokens. So that's
Like individual people or multiple entries from
multiple.
one person.
Multiple.
Yeah.
So like,
Okay, I was about to say, man, you just increased our numbers like a millionfold.
yeah,
But,
500.
like, I'd be thrilled about that. But I don't think we have those numbers.
Not yet.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
550 people's worth of excitement, which is better.
And I will say this: if you're on the Slack channel, we might have a new meme of the year for 2023. Joker King just posted one, so go check that out. But 533. So your first token for this batch, and I think it's the third and last batch, Jared.
Yeah, so the first batch we had like 350 packs and we had 362 submissions. So it almost worked out to like a 1-to-1. And now we have this 530 something that I think it's going to be 400 packs is what Kevin said. And then he's going to do another 400 packs for the last third of the year. So from, 9/1 to the end of the year. So, obviously Dan and Joe and everyone else who streams stuff, Taco Bill, Justin Miyashiro, Kendall, there's going to be lots of opportunities for streaming the rest of the year. Obviously Euros, Worlds, but Champions League, OCS playoffs.
I'll probably do a video tournament report from Saturday.
The more the better for them, because at the end of the day, they're all going to get distributed proportionally. So, the more the better. But yeah, that's the plan for the packs, and I'm expecting another batch. Kevin's probably going to have to send me, or is going to have to send me the World's AIs. So yeah, hopefully I have a lot of packs to give out in person in Worlds, and then we'll ship out all the rest. Probably November will be another big round of shipments.
Awesome. But yeah, your first token for this last batch is the Death Star conference room. Okay, gentlemen, are you guys ready? So normally I allow the chat to help you with these lore challenges, but there's 5 of you. I think between the 5 of you, 5 heads are better than 1. So you guys, I think you guys know the rules. The rules are I'm going to give you the lore. You'll have then you can guess if you can decide if you want the type of the card or the set, and then after that you'll have. You know what? Let's go to 25 seconds, a little bit extra, so that way you guys can determine what you guys wanted to guess as. So, are you gentlemen ready?
Yes.
Okay, let me pull up ACREV. No, Ryan, it is not ACREV for the 500th time.
Do you guys also see Ryan when we were talking about Throne Room and Europe said Throne Room Meridian? That really made me crack up.
Yeah, that was a good one. Okay, so your lore challenge, as I block over Brad Reinold, is the first sign that your blockade is going well. The Queen's on the comm link.
I would guess at last we're getting results, is what I would guess.
Yeah, I would guess
Or is
that
it a
too.
political effect?
Is that the one political effect in Theed?
Yeah, well, no, there's no political effects in Theed, but it.
All the political effects came out in Coruscant.
Yeah,
thought
so
there was
if
one
we
flag
ask for the
in Theed.
set and it's Theed, we know it's at last we're getting results.
Someone in the chat.
Yeah.
confirmed.
From Coruscant, it's one of the political effects.
So I will say,
so
if you guys, like I said, if you guys guess it, you guys win. You guys each get a pack of the Holotheatre's hosts and heroes. So, would you like the set or the type?
Well,
I
Anyone have any other better guesses?
I was so prepared for it to be some Cantina alien from A New Hope. That I was thrown off. I don't
That's
really
what
have-
I studied.
I don't have any contributions.
Okay.
Let's go with set. What's the set?
Here's homework last
The
night. We
Palace.
studied the Cantina aliens.
It's like, what do
Wait,
I do?
what'd you say?
We all
The,
sucked for this
What
game.
the set is Theed Palace. 25 seconds starts
I would-
now.
I would assume my last forgetting results is.
Yeah, I
Oh,
agree with you. I agree with you.
I like your gut.
Okay, do you guys all agree with Chris Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. 100%.
At last, we're getting results. Is the card. You guys are victorious.
Nice.
Way to go, Chris.
First time all you people
Nice
have agreed
work,
with something
man.
I did.
I need more.
The lore challenge
Teamwork.
was
Hey,
symbolically
Chris,
representative.
just because I'm friends with Batmouse doesn't mean I don't agree with you. I like what you're doing for the game, man.
I was right.
Like, I've had way more fun playing since I came back than I ever had playing back in the day.
Honestly, that feedback like means the world to me because that's the goal. I mean, Drew could say the only rule is just fun. Do it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And that's all I've been doing this year is having fun. So thank you. Yeah.
Awesome.
A regular effect. Okay.
Okay, well, again, I want to thank the five of you for coming on. It has been a great episode. I definitely enjoyed talking with the five of you. Next week, we're hoping to have on the winner of Euros. If not, just because of scheduling conflicts and everything, we'll have on maybe the winner of Yavin 4 Regional. Until next...
conflict.
Oh, go ahead, Drew.
Well,
I
Well,
was
I'm
just gonna make a
looking at this
joke.
thing
Just
that-
schedule-
Drew?
I was gonna say just a joke that the scheduling conflict with the person from Euros could be they're still hung over from Euros, but it wasn't really funny that I had to wait 30 seconds to say it. So that's a
I
good
know.
closing
I
line.
blame Brad.
In the show now.
We'll have
And-
to get the Euro.
We'll edit that out in post production.
Yeah, that's... Yeah. So on that, everybody take care. Enjoy your weekends. Stay tuned for everything Euros and Yavin 4. And then until next week, have a good weekend. Enjoy yourselves. And as always, may the force be with you. Good night, everybody.